Hello, everybody. My name's James, and for the benefit of those listening back to the podcast, you're listening to Ask James, my regular YouTube live stream where I welcome questions from the YouTube community on anything football related. To timestamp this, it's just gone 11 a.m. on Friday, October the 6th. And for transparency, let me tell you that I made an FPL transfer last night. It was very unlikely to be a price change, but he was getting absolutely steamed into, and I knew it was going to be the move that I made. So I sold Pervis Stupinan for Matty Cash last night, and that'll probably be it for me this week, subject to news on Bukayo Saka, who I expect to play on one leg against Manchester City on Sunday, and I don't really want to sell him anyway unless it is a serious injury. Right, let's get into the questions. Hollis Stamos says, good morning, James. Rank these four options on wildcard: Mitoma, Almiron, Gordon, James, Ward, Prowse. Almiron's a cheeky little one I'm not seeing in many teams. He had a really explosive period this time last year, which I feel like kind of began about now. I don't know if that might be knocking in terms of a little psychological edge maybe. Gordon's not available this week, but I think it's probably a better option than Almiron, generally speaking. So if you could go for Gordon and bench this week, that's fine. And to be honest, if you're wildcarding, you should be setting up in a position where you've at least got playing defenders on the bench. So yeah, probably Gordon over Almiron. Mitoma I still like, because I think Brighton's run from game week 10 onwards right up to 16 is pretty good. I'm sure he's probably not going to start all 6 games over that period. There's a note of caution on that. James Ward-Prowse fixture's less relevant because it's just his consistency and quite often about his delivery. So the fixtures aren't so relevant for him. But I think I much prefer Bowen to Ward-Prowse, to be totally honest. So I think for me, if I was doing it, I think I'd probably be Mitoma, Gordon, Ward-Prowse, Almiron in that. And that's not to say Almiron's a bad pick, by the way. The fact I'm putting him last, as I said, that's an interesting differential, actually. You definitely know he's going to play this weekend. I don't think Newcastle got too many other options. Jerry Dharma Hughes says, hi James, with Brennan and Solomon out for some time, his son going to play full 90 considering he was taken off before 90 in the last 4 games? Nope, can't guarantee you that, mate. You know, think of it like this, right? I used the example on a podcast I did with Suj yesterday or the day before, I think the day before, where I said, well, look, if Tottenham are 3-0 up at half time, he might get taken off. But he's also probably already done the damage. So I don't let 90 minutes affect you too much, mate. He's probably going to regularly be sort of 75, 80, I should imagine. Tottenham are obviously going to tread carefully with him. How much he plays is probably dependent on the game state, though it's notable obviously in recent games where Tottenham have looked across the ball more into the box when they're chasing a goal. You kind of lose Son's value from that perspective. But we might see, under the circumstances, a little bit more perhaps Son and Richarlison swapping positions in that scenario. Late in game maybe, because the Son's delivery and Richarlison's obviously better in the air, for example. I don't think that's something we would see often, so please don't take too much into that comment. I just think something might happen late in games, just because Tottenham don't have many options to change. But Johnson could be back in game week 9, and I expect Brian Hill to probably be in the squad tomorrow as well. He was kind of 21st man last week, so I expect him very much to be on the bench tomorrow. He's a nippy wide player. It's kind of more a prototype of what you would expect an Ange Postecoglou winger to be, actually. So that's another option in a wide area for Tottenham. So now look, we can overthink this. If that's a question in relation to perhaps captaining Son this weekend, or wanting him for longer term, you definitely want him, is my opinion, because of the capability of what he could be. And with each passing good performance and good returns, his price is just going to shoot up. You would imagine, take Son as an example, as long as he's fit for Fulham in game week 9, people aren't going to go and sell him. So the investment will only continue, I think, even if he didn't return this weekend. For me, unless Ange says something at 1 o'clock today in his press conference that spooks me, I'll be captaining Sonny this week. I think that the clincher in that, for me, over over James Maddison, actually, would probably be the alternative, although I probably will stick Rice on Haaland just to have two players from different games. Is that Lyle Foster goal on Tuesday night? Two vertical passes, like quickly dissecting Luton. It's not the sort of goal we've really seen scored against them so far this season. And in home games, I think they're more liable to go and press and harry than they are in away games. But we don't know if Luton will play the same way against Tottenham as they did against Burnley. But they do like to, particularly in games at Kenilworth Road, try and get in the face of the opposition. And Tottenham can manipulate the ball so well now. So, yeah, Sonny will get the armband for me tomorrow. Do I think he'll play 90 minutes? No. And I'm saying that hoping that we've got the game done with 20 to go, right? MRCX says, hi James, hope you're doing well. How's Harry doing? Yeah, very good, thank you, mate. He's just done a full week of school, full time, for the first time. It's really good, he's happy. It was his mum's birthday yesterday, and he sang happy birthday on his own to his mum. So, yeah, he's doing really good, thank you, mate. Jerry Dharma Yu says, I'm asking because it may make Son not that appealing as a captaincy option with possibly Velez off the bench. Yeah, look, Velez is only going to be used really, really late in that kind of circumstance that I'd mentioned. The two circumstances. One, Tottenham want an aerial threat for a late goal. That's a possibility. Or the game is done and they feel they can bring him on. They're not going to, Tottenham winning 2-1 with half hour to go, bring him on. Like, I don't see that circumstance as an example. MRCX says, who's a captain out of Haaland, Salah, Maddison, Porro? If that was my choices, I think I'd go with Mo this week, to be honest. Yeah, I think, Roberto De Zerbi, I know Brighton came back from 2-0 down again last night, but there's defensive errors happening a lot at the moment. And he did say openly himself that they're not playing well at the moment. So, although I do note Pascal Gross's return, I think makes a little bit of a difference. But yeah, I think I would go with Mo, a chance it, ceiling of what it could be. With Haaland, you don't... This is an interesting point. And listen, captain Haaland this week, if you've got doubt, is fine because of the ownership, etc. But if you're not prepared to take him on this week, when they're playing away to the best challenger, in my opinion, to them this year, although I think Liverpool will be involved as well, like, when are you comfortable to take him on? It's not like the likes of the players you mentioned, which includes Porro, by the way, are not alternative options this week. So it would be Mo Salah for me with that choice, but I would also, just to clarify, I would go Sonny over Salah. Jerry Darmiu says, and if so, do you think Maddison captaincy against Luton makes more sense since Sun struggled versus low block before versus Sheffield United? Yeah, I covered this, and I'm going to skip it because of the reference I made to the Lyle Foster goal. Ilan Melchior says, hi James, which one of Kulusevski and Richarlison would you choose for a 2-week punt? Could the style of Fulham and Luton favour one of them over the other? Richarlison a minute risk after the international break? Yes, could be. I've seen a lot of love for Richarlison. I threw this stat to one of our patrons yesterday. He was asking me about Richarlison. Richarlison still hasn't scored a goal with his foot for Tottenham since joining the club in a competitive game. He scored 4 goals and they've all been headers. So Kulusevski providing for him, right? Or Porro. So, yeah, look, if I had to buy one of those two for the next couple, my preference would be with Kulusevski. Definitely, for me. We know that there's a capability with Richarlison, but no, Kulusevski for me, definitely. Jerry Darmiu says, I know this sounds a bit too early, but with Spurs playing Palace and Chelsea next two, who are relatively solid defence, you still keeping both Son and Maddison, or sell Maddison? Well, I think that there's a nice consciousness here, and this will apply to wildcarders as well. Like, let's think about outcomes. Let's say Son, you've wildcarded now, right? And you're going something, say, Son, Maddison, Salah, Bowen, or Diaby, for example. Well, the beauty with both of those is you could hit game week 10 if Tottenham have a bad couple of weeks. I want to get off this. It looks a bit more difficult now. Son to Saka, Maddison to Martinelli if he's back fit. So, yeah, I have a consciousness of that, and I've got the two players that are above their competitors. So, yeah, very conscious that that's a possibility that I may end up going to Arsenal. Could obviously be Jared Bowen. If I don't get him next week, would also be of interest to me. But, yeah, there's a consciousness of that. I wouldn't say, I'm keeping Son and Maddison for, like, every week for forever. No, not at all. I definitely want them in now, though. Jerry says, and who would you start between James Ward-Prowse and Archer? Ward-Prowse at home versus an informed Newcastle versus Archer playing for a struggling Sheffield United side at Fulham. Yeah, preference for Ward-Prowse, and purely because what I said, sure, Newcastle were good defensively, but the fixtures for Ward-Prowse specifically don't matter so much. If you're going with him, you're going with him for longer term consistency, I should imagine. So yeah, Ward-Prowse for me. Nikolai says, morning James, I'm on my wildcard, very excited, good luck, and good luck to everybody who's on wildcard this week. No Haaland, my current plan is to have 3-4-3 with Alvarez, Nunes and Watkins. We'll have Foden on bench to rotate with Bowen. Hope to cover Haaland, good luck. Gary Reza says, morning mate, did you ever go to away games when you were growing up? I was thinking how much easier things will be in my life when I can start taking my son. Yeah, Dad took me to, well, Dad and Mum took me to a lot of away games. But it was probably, I don't know, probably back then, maybe 4 or 5. It wasn't like now with a ticketing point system and stuff like that. It was probably, I don't know, 4 or 5 a year maybe. We went to Sunderland on a weeknight when I was 7. No, it wasn't even 7. It was 6. 0-0 as well. The old Roker Park. MRCX says, my defence is running on fumes with Taylor, Botman and Baldock in there. Which 4.5 or under would you get in for Baldock? So, look, I think the answer to that probably lies in with what else you've got, right? So, I think there's a few to consider. Like, I'll give you an example. So, at the moment, I've got Johnston and Turner. And I think there's every chance Turner's going to lose his place. But it's got me thinking, rather than trying to get in Areola, am I better off just leaving Johnston and having a bit of West Ham defensive coverage elsewhere and going someone like Emerson? Right? Now, alternative of that, you might be sitting there with Areola and Turner. And I'd say, well, longer term, it's a good fixture this week, but you probably don't want to play it in the next 2. Perhaps Mark Gay of Crystal Palace as an alternative. It feels like everything's going in for Anderson at the moment, but we spoke about this in pre-season. It's like, when the moment comes and you want a Palace defender, just ignore whichever one's got more value and get the cheaper one. So Mark Gay at 4.5, I think would potentially be an interesting option. Very short term, if you just want to use for 8 and 10, I think Levi Colwell is reasonable. Although I think he's gone to 4.6 now, hasn't he, Levi Colwell? Esri Konsa for Villa, as I think a real absolute comfortable. Lee referenced Pau Torres, he thought would be comfortable for starts as well. If, say, you can't get to Matty Cash, for example. So I think there's a number. If you wanted a 1 week punt, someone like Tim Ream, maybe, for example. Milos Kerkez of Bournemouth, they're about to come into a better run. Next 3 fixtures look quite good, for example. So I think there's a number, if you just look a little bit below the surface there, can be considered. And it is relevant by what else you've got. So for me, if I was to decide to not go down the Areola route, I would arguably go for, say, Emerson. But I wouldn't really particularly be wanting Emerson for Newcastle at home and Villa away. So it's relevant to what else you've got in your team. Gaytam says, hi James, great win for Spurs last week. Should I do Foden, Morris to Neto and Darwin, or White, Estupinan to Doggy and Cash? Let me tell you my one real regret. This is my first real regret of the FPL season. It's no regret that I have Udogi, but there is massive regret that I don't have Pedro Porro, and I just can't make it work. Can't make it work. I'm not going to do that from -4, go like Udogi to Porro. Just doesn't. It's not justifiable. For example, that's the one. I'm like, oh my god, I really want him. I really want him in Pedro Porro. So just factor that into the thinking as well when you're asking that. Ben White is how much more expensive than Gabriel? It's about 0.8 or so. I mean, that's worth the saving, for example. So there's certainly a case to say, yeah, move on White and this Stupinan. Foden and Morris aren't terrible options, right? Morris will be Luton talisman. He's on pens. Foden, he's going to play the majority of games, I believe, for Manchester City as it would stand. So, yeah, I'd probably get rid of those 2 defensive players because I wouldn't like that. I'd be willing to come back for Arsenal, though. I think that needs consideration. If I was on wildcard this week, I'd probably go Gabriel, by the way. MRCX says, all of the early people drop a like for James. Cheers, mate. Yeah, if you're watching live, smash a like. Doesn't cost anything, guys. FPL Andy says, morning, James. Feels like everyone on wildcard has turned on Areola. Why am I the only one who wants Raya? Comes down to that as like comparisons again, right? Gabriel's cheaper than Raya, isn't he? There's possibly a little bit of consciousness of concern that Ramsdale could come in at any moment, but it doesn't feel like that. I think we should accept that Raya has established himself as Arsenal's number one at this point in time, but it wouldn't hugely shock if like Sheffield United at home in 10, sod it, we'll give Ramsdale a run out. I mean, Arteta's the one who keeps saying he doesn't have a number one goalkeeper, right? So it's just a case of saving the money, Andy. That's all it's about. That's why. If Raya was that price, people would go Raya over Areola, right? So it's about that and combinations. If you want Raya, it's a perfectly reasonable pick, but you are walking straight into Manchester City as well. JP says Nunes and Diaby or Watkins and Bowen. Well, look, time of live stream now, we haven't got enough information on Mr. Diaby for me to give that answer, but let's work on a narrative that he is fit. I would want Bowen more than Diaby is kind of my take at the moment, and I just think Watkins' mad consistency versus God knows if Darwin Núñez starts in game week 9. So Darwin Núñez, Luis Diaz and Alexis McAllister must all be doubtful for Liverpool in game week 9 at home to Everton with the 12:30 kickoff. Those three players are all playing in South America in the early hours of Tuesday night / Wednesday morning. I think McAllister's kickoff is 3 o'clock in the morning, actually. So it's not just the travel, it's then the adjustment of time and stuff as well, right? You have to factor that in. So the other guys will finish their games at like 2:30, 3 a.m. in the morning respectively. So it's not just the travel, it's, you know, if they were in England, they'd be in bed and asleep at that time, you would have presumed. So yeah, it's the Watkins and Bowen option for me. FPL Andy says, PS, great COTC this week. Thank you. Yeah, we enjoyed it. We had a bit more of an FPL chat than maybe we would necessarily normally do on those ones, which I thought was important. There's so much interest, particularly in Villa at the moment. Neto and Hwang, I think, offer interesting Wolves options. For those of Hwang, who scored the same amount of goals as Ollie Watkins this season, believe it or not, with very restricted minutes. I think offers a really nice 5.4 option, actually, because they've got kind of a good long-term run as well, Wolves, and it's one you probably, I'll bench that. Oh, okay, that's a nice cover to bring in, for example. So Hwang, I think, is quite interesting at 5.4, and also we hadn't had the chance to speak to Bradley since the change of manager. Obviously, we did correspondent week, and then Lopetegui went and Gary O'Neill took over the following week. So, yeah, I enjoyed that. It was a good one. Thank you. JP says, your top 3 Sky Fantasy football assets to get. Haaland, Salah, and there's massive regret right now again in that one that I don't have Heung-min Son. I can make it work, but I'm not going to till the Fulham game on that Monday night in a couple of weeks. So yeah, I've been Haaland, Salah, Son's going to cover off a major part of captaincy for you for coming weeks. So those would be the 3. Aaron Hill says, hi James, taking a -4 already. Saka and Estupiñán out for Son, who I'm going to captain, and Porro. Weighing up another -4 to do Botman to cash to avoid playing Saliba this week. False. So here's an interesting thing. So I'm probably going to play Saliba this week as well. And if Saka's out, I'll be playing, not only just playing Saliba, I'll be playing him against 3 Manchester City attackers because I've got Haaland and Alvarez. And if Saka's, let's say he's doubtful and then doesn't play, I've got Jeremy Doku as first sub. So that feels really not ideal at all. But when I look around in terms of -4s, I think it's questionable. I've actually only got one team predicted for a clean sheet this week, which actually is Chelsea. Is what you'll probably see on the deadline stream tomorrow. I can see Chelsea winning narrowly at Burnley in a low-scoring game. I haven't predicted, in my predictions that we'll do later on our Patreon pod, I haven't predicted any other team for a clean sheet this week. So with that in mind, and future fixtures, it's got to be something offensive, right? So the ones that I think would be worth potentially a -4 in that scenario are Porro and arguably Matty Cash. But I wouldn't be that hopeful with Cash. With Porro, I'd be thinking, yeah, definitely there's a massive ceiling there. But you've already said you're getting him in. So Botman to Cash for a -4. I think if you know you want to go there and you're keeping Matty Cash longer term, like, it's fine. Check rotation longer term. The reason for me selling this Estupiñán rather than Botman is quite straightforward. 2 very real obvious reasons. One is price. 2, Bottom's got a chance of being back for game week 9, which is a good fixture at home to Crystal Palace, and I'd start him if he's fit. Whereas even if Estupiñán did make a miraculous cover, it's Manchester City away. So, yeah, I think Cash is debatable. Porro's the only one I'd definitely say, yeah, take the -4 for it, would be my take. Udogie probably no, because I'd just prefer people work their lives out to get Porro, would be my take at the moment. Cash, if you know you're going there longer term, I get it, but do you really anticipate Cash scoring 4 more points than Saliba this week? Like, I think Arsenal win on Sunday, to tell you the truth. And I don't see it being a mad win. I see it being like a 1-0 or a 2-1. I've gone for 2-1 to Arsenal in my predictions. So, I don't know, how bad is it? Like, can he score from a set play or something? I don't think it is. You take the -4 for a guy who might end up playing a defensive right-back role. Could well spend a lot of the game chasing Pedro Neto. I think Porro's probably the only one I'd be comfortable taking a -4 for. Now, if obviously it was for someone who's not playing at all, then I get it completely. Yeah, go for the upside. But, I don't know. Arsenal were near enough the best defensive team in the league, not far off. Like, I get it. You don't want to have players playing against each other. But how bad is it, really? No, that's the conclusion I come to. I'm just going to play Saliba, I think. Ethan says, team value's a mess. Can't get Salah and Haaland and Son without major compromises. What do you think of tripling up on Diaz, Darwin and TAA to cover Liverpool? Surely without Gakpo, one of Darwin, Diaz will start game week 9. Because he can't play Szoboszlai in a higher position, or Klopp can't look at Everton at home and go, I'm going to play Harvey Elliott on the right hand side and play Salah through the middle, or they've got a brilliant young talented kid in Ben Doak, for example. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if either of them started that game. So I don't think it is. It's purely just how they are when they come back, right? And what Klopp thinks and what he judges and what the medical team there will advise and stuff as well. If the medical team there advise not to play him, they won't play. Honestly, it's simple as that. And historically, Liverpool at home to Everton has been littered with Klopp doing random team selections. I remember a game they beat Everton 5-2 on a weeknight. Trying to remember the year, 2019, I think. And he left out, he made like 6-7 changes and still won like 5-2. Origi played up front. He always scored against Everton, didn't he, in fairness? So, surely there's no alternative. Yeah, there is. Yeah, there's alternatives. But in terms of your principal idea, like, I don't hate it. It's just that. It's game week 9. Are we even sure that Trent starts on Sunday as well? It's not a certainty. And Joe Gomez has been playing quite well. So I would expect Trent to come back in, but I don't think it's a certainty. So I'm likely to go with no Liverpool, right? I don't know what can happen there. I think I'm probably more of the position to think maybe I'll go like Alvarez to Nunes in 10. Or maybe I'll go like a Maddison to Diaz, for example. Or maybe Haaland will get injured and I'm like, yeah, it's -4. Let's get Mo in, obviously. So I think sacrifices can be made to have those 3. Though I note and I think, really, for most wildcarders, it's one option or the other. And to be honest, I think if I was wildcarding now, Salah would have to go in. Would be priority. Almost looking back on it, what am I wildcarding for? Almost a little bit. Almost becomes like a mild card. Yeah, I think it was FPL Sports Science said that. Mild card if like you don't go Salah now, for example. So, yeah, it's not great. It's not great when you go those 3 with the sacrifices. Perhaps it's not having Trippier. Perhaps it's not having Watkins. Maybe it's things like that to make it look a little bit better, perhaps. Anish Patil says, play Pickford or Turner. Good luck to you for this week, James. I would play Pickford. I actually fancy Nottingham Forest might win tomorrow, actually. But I don't think Turner will be in goal. I think Vlachodimos will come in goal, to tell you the truth. I think, though, with the home fixture, Pickford. Nikolai says, what do you think the best 4.0 defender for wildcard is? Bayer, Kabore, Lamptey or Taylor? I'm leaning towards Bayer for long term. Yep, that would be me as well, mate. And I'd look at the majority of weeks, bar game week 12, and think, yeah, I'm quite happy with that. Interestingly as well, game week 11 looks a little bit ugly for defensive assets. It's not terrible, but I think it won't look great. So, for example, Newcastle and Arsenal play each other. So if you've got like Botman and Saliba, for example, it's not great. Cash goes to Forest. Forest home record's really good. Tottenham have got Chelsea at home. It's not amazing. Brighton, obviously, at that point come back into a good run, but it's also an away game away to Everton. And I've looked at this, and one of the things I'd been considering is, right, if I want something that's going to cover me specifically for game week 11, what do I want it to be? And it might even be that it's Wolves. Another away game, admittedly, away to Sheffield United. But Burnley's at home to Palace. Feels quite reasonable. It's another reason why I kind of mentioned the likes of Mark Gay earlier as well as a potential solution for people. It might be that you're really happy with 9-10. And if you've got, I don't know, let's say Botman's back fit and you've got Cash, Udogie and perhaps Saliba, for example, then 9-10's fine. Even like Saliba at Chelsea in 9, like it's fine. So you wouldn't need it through Palace's 2 difficult ones. Then maybe an 11 away to Burnley might be a bit more useful. Then they've got Everton, Luton after that as well. So, but from those, yeah, Luton would be no consideration for me. The fixtures are awful. And he's not even an absolute first choice. Well, let me take that back. He is first choice, but he's rotatable, let's say. It's a Kabore. Lamptey, it's Liverpool City now. And then by the time Fulham comes around, Stupinan might be back. Now, of course, Lamptey can also play right back, but I don't think it'll often be Lamptey and Stupinan in the same team longer term. So, yeah, sure, short term one, Lamptey, but if you want to play against Liverpool or City, not really, I don't think. So yeah, Bayer, I think, and again, like if you have to play it this week, Chelsea at home, like, is it terrible? No, Chelsea aren't exactly smashing them in all over the shop, are they? Thomas says on wildcard, James, thoughts on Richie over Maddison for 2 weeks? It's a firm no for me, mate. I get it that Richarlison will fall into a value line for people, but I think like if Diaby's fit, I prefer him. I'd prefer to go with Prowse even as well. I get it if it's 2 weeks and then you want to come back for something else, like I get it. But if it's a choice between Richarlison and Maddison, like Maddison comfortably for me, to be honest. Super Saiyan 45 says, morning James, hope you're well. Sky question here. Been off Saka now for Son/Bowen. Right out the injury and next 2 fixtures. I already own Maddison for potential captaincy. Well, at time of recording, I think Arteta's press conference is 1 o'clock today. Might be 12:30, maybe. We don't have any information, so this is a really difficult one to answer. What I can say to you is, there's every chance you're going to want to captain Bukayo Saka against Sheffield United in Sky Fantasy on Saturday, the 28th of October. And your only way to get back there will be via a Tottenham player, if that's what you're going to do. So look, there's a case for that, particularly say if you've already got Maddison as well, for example, which you said you have. There's a case for it. If it gives you Sun captaincy in the morning, and obviously you can see the team before you confirm and choose your captain tomorrow and stuff. I don't hate it, but you definitely want to go back there. And then you've got to ask yourself, how much does Sun need to get in those? It would effectively be probably free captaincies, admittedly. But you're also moving it off Maddison, who's very reasonable over that period as well. So, in all honesty, I would only make that move, I think, if we knew that Bukayo Saka was out. JP says, Chelsea have won 2 games now with Palmer starting and Sterling not. Is that coincidence? Yeah, probably. They've also got 2 clean sheets in those 2 games, so that's really helpful. I like Cole Palmer. I think for those going 3-4-3 this week, I think he's a really good consideration, actually. I'd probably be just a little bit put off by not having the full information at the moment. Like, we know Sterling was ill the other night, so we don't know if Pochettino's preference could still be, it could be Sterling right, Mudryk left, and then say Jackson or Breuer up front, and then Palmer's not in it, and that'd be a shame. But I think despite the fact they've got really rough fixtures, Chelsea, I think he's a really, really good enabler coming up, because you'd be comfortable benching that because of the fixtures coming up. But what is he, 4'9", I think? That's a really, really good 5th midfielder if he's going to play there. I think probably one more for wildcarders in perhaps 10. If, despite the fact that the fixture's not bad, obviously this week, and you'd probably, bench at home to Brentford might look great. But if in the next couple he kind of locks down that place where you think, he's starting there regularly, yeah, that's a really, really interesting enabler. I've got eyes on him. Absolutely. I like him. I really like him. Sterling's mass frustrating mass frustrating. I warned about that after the haul against Luton. He's the sort of player who'll piss you off. But no, I think it's coincidence, to be honest, mate. Daniel Cullerton says, few questions today. What do you think the score would be Ange's current Spurs side versus prime Pochettino Spurs? It's interesting. This team would move that old one about quite a lot. But that was a bloody good team. And this team doesn't have Moussa Dembele, so the old team. Yeah, it also doesn't have depth. Not that was hugely in depth, that team, but you got Kane up front, you got Peak Eriksson in there. I think in terms of Tottenham's best version under Pochettino, an absolutely brilliant Victor Wanyama as well. Vertonghen and Alderweireld, Cole Walker, and a brilliant Danny Rose at fullback as well. Peak Hugo in goal. You still got Sonny as part of that as well, and peak Delhi. Yeah, the peak Pochettino team probably, yeah, because I just think the current Tottenham team would definitely give that old team chances, and that old team would take it, and Dembele would give it control. But Dembele, it's ironic. Dembele in this current version of Tottenham wouldn't really work. It wouldn't really work. It sound mad. He's not good enough on the ball in terms of his passing. The passing has got to be so crisp and quick that, ironically, he wouldn't fit into this team as well. But then there's other players probably wouldn't have fit into that Pochettino team as well, either. So yeah, I do think the kind of the 2017 Tottenham that's the best Tottenham I've seen. Atul says, what do you think of Odegaard as a differential pick over Watkins on wildcard? I see you keep mentioning this on our Slack, buddy. Yeah, I don't hate it. We know he's going to do really well, right? We saw the kind of haul potential last week. I'd be conscious I've just missed a haul, though, to be honest. It's a no for me, to be honest. I mean, Watkins even offers up captaincy potential in some of these weeks coming up. So, no, it would be Watkins for me, mate. Jacob NH says, morning James, am I mad to want a Liverpool defender on wildcard? If not, do you think VVD could be worth the saving on Trent? I've been thinking about this a bit, right, because the run's really good, and it's a shame we don't... Okay, I think we probably do at the moment. I think Joel Matip will stay in the team at the moment, but Joel Matip's also mad injury prone. When you get into periods like, for example, when they go to Sheffield United in 15, that's a midweek game, and you want to play him, and there's no guarantee that he's not going to get a rest, because they'll end up playing almost definitely Thursday, Sunday, Wednesday, Saturday, right? So you might even miss 2 league games over that period. So that's annoying. Konate, if we knew Konate was going to play, then I think that's really interesting, actually. Was he 4'9" or something? Like, why not? It's more the point. Why not? Someone you can just pick and choose when you play, for example. That then is a long way up to Trent. Robertson, I just don't particularly think is really an option in the same way that he has been. With Van Dijk, you know what you get in terms of the minutes, etc., and he maintains a threat from set piece, etc. But I just think there are so many good sort of defensive options in. Let's put it a different way. Is Van Dijk worth, what is he, 6'4", 6'5"? Let's say 6'5", I can't remember. Is he worth 1.8 more than Gabriel, as an example? Is he worth 1.5 more than Porro, or 1.6 more than Cash, or even 2 million more than Dan Burn? Yeah, I'd like to have a Liverpool defensive player as well, but I'm not paying that. Not paying that, I don't think. Alisson is interesting, because he kind of falls in that middle line. And I think that might be one that becomes, I wouldn't say popular, but I think a few people wildcard might consider that. The problem is West Ham obviously coming to really good fixtures at the same time, so I don't really see it. Again, like, would I rather have Alisson? Yeah, sure. Do I want to pay 1 and a bit million more when I know they probably score fairly equally? It's probably no. So it's like, want Liverpool, but just understanding that there's cheaper options all across the board who will get near it, and then you go Burn instead of Van Dijk, right? Well, what are you doing with the 2 million, right? 2 million might be that what pushes you a little bit more towards Mo, for example. JP says, who will come on for Spurs attacking wise now? Solomon and Brennan Johnson are out. So, as I said near the start, Vélez is obviously an option. I think Brian Hill will be back in the squad tomorrow. If the game's going really well tomorrow, you may even see Jamie Donnelly. I don't think it's huge. I would be surprised. I expected Jamie Donnelly to be in the squad last week. Iago Santiago's doing really well for the under-21s as well. Plays wide on the left. Again, if Hill didn't make the squad tomorrow, I think there's a possibility he may even be in the squad tomorrow. He's a tricky little player. I've never been overly convinced about him, but he's having a really, really good period at the moment for the under-21s. So, yeah, Ange won't be frightened to stick these boys in. Certainly in the squad at least. So, yeah, if it's a question laced with, I think because there's no options, Son's definitely getting 90 minutes. Like, the answer to that is he's not. He's not definitely getting 90 minutes. Daniel Cullison says, do you think Diaz, Salah and Nunez on a wild card is a bit overkill? Yeah, I'm not going to cover it again. Daniel's kind of covered earlier with the game week 9 concern would bug me. It would really bug me. In a weird way, because of that, they're better options this week than they are next week. Matthew Hogban says, hello James, hope you and your family are well. Sky question, if Saka's ruled out this weekend, would you move to Son or Salah? Already have Maddison, cheers. Yeah, if it's confirmed, then yes. Gatesam says, James, one more follow-up. Do you think Morris will score against Spurs? Then I can just do a defensive change. Is Stupinan to Cash and Foden to Neto Diarra? As those who've been listening probably already know, I think Luton will score this weekend. They maintain obviously a massive threat from set plays. Which makes anyone in their team who goes forward for set plays a liable potential goal scorer. He's obviously on the pens. I like him. I think he's a decent forward, to tell you the truth. Doesn't look out of place at this level. I think he's absolutely fine. He strikes me that if he gets chances, he probably will score goals. So yeah, that's not a huge problem that you play him this week. But I would probably move his Stupinan to Cash. I mean, I've done it, right? Again, it's difficult. I can't see the whole rest of your team and stuff. But, yeah, if his Stupinan's not back for game week 10, like, how much worth is he to you? He's going to get sold en masse quite quickly. Atul says, what do you think of double Spurs defence? Udogie and Porro feel like fixture run is good. There should be some cleans, surely. Again, I think it's probably a case, like, for the next two, Atul, yeah, fine, but then you don't want Maddison and Son either. So, the best three for me is Porro, Maddison, and Son. Also consider looking forward a few weeks. Although the fixture run isn't bad, like, how comfortable are you going with double Tottenham defence when it's Chelsea at home, Wolves away, Villa at home, Man City away, West Ham at home, Newcastle at home? Like, as a group of 6... it's not great. It's not terrible. I don't think it's good for the defence. So, look, short term, if you were to say to me, James, I'm wildcarding in 10, I can't get to Son for whatever reason. I want to go with these two defensively. Sure. Absolutely fine. If I was on wildcard, I'd want all 4 of them, to tell you the truth. But beyond 9, I wouldn't want to be sitting there with double Tottenham defence. Daniel Cullison says, last question, why do you and Suj call yourselves Big Tasty? Enjoyed the pods this week, keep up the great work. So it's a very, very old, the older Planet FPL listeners will probably know that there was a bet, let's say, a number of years ago about, I was really intent on getting Lascelles. I can't remember the exact story, but it ended up being a bet on him returning over a Big Tasty. Basically, Suj was like, if he returns this weekend, I'll take you to McDonald's. And I don't think he did, and he took me to McDonald's anyway. And we filmed it live on Twitter, Suj driving me to McDonald's to get the Big Tasty and stuff. So that's where the Big Tasty comes from. I can completely get, for those who don't know the history behind that story, would think that's enough weird, and I get that. Ethan Justin says, hello James, hope you're well. Which player have you not seen in any wildcards that is massively under the radar? No, I don't think maybe there is, because even the little ones, Hoyland's fixtures are good. Like, I've seen him in a few. The one I haven't seen in any is one I've already mentioned, Cole Palmer. But I completely understand why people are not going there. I completely understand it. That would be one, but even then, he'd be coming in as 8th attacker. So I think like in terms of forwards, it's probably choice between like 5 or 6, because I think once you come below sort of Alvarez level, I think you just go, right, I'm going 2 up front, I'm going Archer. I've another name, but I've seen him in teams. Dominic Solanke, I know, has got a little bit of popularity in certain circles at the moment. Bournemouth's next 3 is good, like that's reasonable, but there's not that many options from the forward line, and to be honest, everyone's converging towards the same place, right? What I'd say is little ones like, saving of, say, Consa versus Cash, is it worth it? Probably not, but that 0.4 might make a difference somewhere else. There aren't many. Like, if I was on wildcard now, I wouldn't be that far away from variations that are going around at the moment. Mitoma might be another name, but again, I think if you're wildcarding now, I'd still want to go something for 2 and then come back for it, maybe, if it was wildcarding now, arguably. So, no, there's not many. There's not many that I'm not seeing. Yeah, Isak Wilson's kind of too complicated at the moment. No, there's not many. Ethan says, best punt out of Neto, Gibbs White, Gordon. Not Gibbs White, although I do think he'll come back into the Palace team tomorrow, but that's a no. That's getting ready to give you a slap, that one, I think. Gordon, I think, if you've got the cover for this week, then I think Gordon, but obviously he's suspended this weekend. So if you've got to have it for now, then it's Neto probably. But consider Hwang. Honestly, have a look at Hwang. Ali Bismo says, hi James, non-FPL question. What do you think usually a game week right before international break is a low scoring one FPL-wise and many shady injuries so clubs can protect players from getting injured abroad? So non-FPL question, then you asked... Then you said non-scoring FPL-wise. Sorry, that really confused me. Yeah, to be honest with you, though, I think for the majority, the fixtures are difficult enough this weekend that there's... Newcastle's going to pull Isak out because they don't want him to play for Sweden. Well, they probably need him against West Ham, for example. There's too many difficult matchups. Brighton, Liverpool, Arsenal, City, West Ham, Newcastle, even Villa going to Wolves. These are competitive, right? United can't take their eye off the ball against Brentford, and Tottenham don't have the personnel to chuck about at the moment with Luton away. Similar story for Chelsea at Burnley, so I think that would be overplaying that at the moment, to be honest. Nikolai says, do you Gabriel being an issue long term, worried that with Partey coming back? Yeah, but Zinchenko's back as well, so... And I think it's so much better for Arsenal. I'm sure nearly every Arsenal fan would say they'd rather have Gabriel coming into midfield from left back than Partey doing it from right back. I'm pretty convinced by that. So, no, I think it's okay. And in any case, okay, he might get left out. Yeah, sure, that could happen. But chance of him coming off the bench, probably unlikely. Fish says, how much should wildcarders care about the 18 blanks and 20 double? Is there a way to prep for it? Well, just for clarity, we don't know factually that the double will happen in 20. A lot of us think that's likely. Like, I'm probably about 90% about it, to be honest. Is there a way to prep for it? Yeah, wildcard in 19. Move your team towards the 18 blank and then wildcard straight out of it. So, yeah, that's probably becoming more and more the intention for me. For me as well, right? Like, I'm not wildcarding. This is a good example, right? Me and Suj did a podcast on Tuesday, right, about when to wildcard. I'm not wildcarding. Suj is wildcarding. Right? So we've even from that sitting next to each other, we're now diversifying into different directions. Now in his case, he felt he was too far off what he wanted. In my case, I'd arguably wildcard, and the only attacking player I might change is Jared Bowen. So for me, it's just not on the. I'd probably change the whole defence, but I don't know. Is that worth it? I mean, for me, it was like a no. So it's down to circumstance, and with that in mind, for me, not necessarily for you, for me, it was going to be way more difficult to manipulate that period later on. But I completely get why people wildcarding now. Like if I was going to make probably even 3 attacking changes, I'd probably be wildcarding now as well. MRCX says, who to bring in for Bruno if he fails to deliver against Brentford? No one, makes. He's got Sheffield United next. I can see me punting Bruno next week, even, possibility. I've been thinking this. I like to think about contingencies. So what happens if X? So let's say Son gets injured this week. What am I doing? It might even be that I'd go Bruno 1 week against Sheffield United. So the answer to your question is, if he fails this week, you ain't selling him next week for Sheffield United. I wouldn't recommend, with all due respect to them, that anybody sells any player they've got when they're about to play Sheffield United. Luke Stevenson says, "Hi James, I'm on a no Haaland wildcard. Please can you help me choose between these combinations? Trent and Archer, Lamptey and Solanke, Lamptey and Nunez. Thanks and good luck." I mean, the way you're setting it up, Trent and Archer, I think. Rockpie123 says, "Okay, we've heard the audio from the officials." Oh, do we have to? It's a mess. Why don't they just follow the same process as in rugby union? The referee asks a yes/no question. The video assistant gives a yes/no answer. Ask them, mate. Ask them. I've said enough on it now, and we're done. And it's Monday's podcast, guys. Keith Redfield says, "Good luck, James. Son or Madison Cat?" It's going to be Son for me, mate. FPL Glasso says, "Have you offered Suji any wildcard advice? If not, can you offer me some?" Yeah, play it your way. Play it your way. You know it already, right? Oh, slogan. Sorry. I don't like, and I've generally had this rule, I really don't like advising people on wildcard. And that's purely because I don't know what your plan is in 9. I don't know what your plan is in 10. I don't know who you want to rotate and when you want X to play and when you don't want that. There's too many variables off a wild card where any advice is purely going to be, this is what I do. And what I do isn't necessarily right for what you do or what you want to do. So genuinely the advice is play it your way. And because it's a wild card as well, very, very importantly, make it a team that you like. Don't worry if no one else likes it. Make it a team that you like. And yes, I'll be recording for the Patreon pod with Suj at about 2 o'clock today, and I'll be telling him everything that's wrong in it. No, I won't. I would try and help him, absolutely. Colin Johnson says, "Morning, James. Great content, mate. Ward-Prowse and Maddison, or Bowen and Neto, or Gordon." Ward-Prowse and Maddison at the moment. Again, just think about this a little bit logically as well. Ward-Prowse and Maddison now. Maddison upsets you in the next 2 weeks. Maddison to Bowen in 10. Alex says, "Hello, James. On wildcard, going for a 3-4-3 based primarily on a Solanke punt." There you go. It's another Solanke. What do you think is the best pair? Alvarez and Luis Diaz, Darwin Núñez and Diaby, or Watkins and Ward-Prowse? Alvarez and Diaz, but a real consciousness about game week 9. A real consciousness about game week 9. Richard F says, "Love the pod. Thoughts on a triple move for Mbumo, Rashford and Haaland for Son, Maddison and Watkins. Can you Spurs?" It's that end bit at the end, Richard. Yeah, look. I don't feel people take words too literally. I've learnt that on Twitter this week. In fact, I've always known that about Twitter. That's the stupidity about using that platform. You presumably know the risk if you take Haaland out, right? You know that. But if you're going to do it, now is the time. Now is the time. What I think people should consider is going without. I think this is a key question to think about. And going without is fine, right? I spoke about this in the international break, the last one, where I said that my intention originally at this point would have been to sell Haaland now. And it probably wouldn't have been sell for Núñez and obviously then fund for Salah. That would have been my plan. And if I was wildcarding without Haaland, that's probably what I'd do. I'd go Núñez, Watkins, Alvarez. Salah would find his way in there, definitely. And it'd probably be Maddison, Son, plus Bowen. Probably something like that, right? But what I think people have to think about is, what if they changed their mind? Or what if Mo gets injured? Just think that just needs some thought, right? Now, for me, let's put it this way, right? Let's say Haaland gets injured. Well, I've kind of just said what I'd do. It's fairly obvious, right? It's down to a forward, whether that be Archer or kind of Núñez, and then into Salah. It's obvious. But the other way round might be a lot more difficult. And I just think that contingency needs to be thought about, because the chances are, let's say Salah gets injured against Nottingham Forest in game week 10, and then you look at 11 and Haaland's got Bournemouth at home. just think some thought is needed to consider, right, how am I going back there? And of course you can go back there, and you may decide you don't want to go back there, right? But would you like to say Newcastle and Arsenal playing each other, for example? You might do. There is a case to say you could go into Fernandes, Rashford. United have 3 good fixtures at that point as well, as an example. But just consider, if you're going without Haaland, second guess, how would I get back if I have to get back? That's all. Do you want to go without? That's fine. And I think, Richard, if you want to make that move, I think Mbeumo's sellable. I think Rashford's sellable. Son, Maddison and Watkins are great options. I'm absolutely okay with it, mate. Rory McGregor says, hey James, loved the pod and analysis. Salah, Richarlison, Mbeumo or Diaz, Maddison, Darwin. 0.6. Feel like my son Maddison spots can be Saka, Bruno in a few weeks to cover Salah captaincy. It's kind of similar to my thinking. I just think Saka's enough, to be honest, as long as he's fit. But you're thinking of selling Salah now? I wouldn't. No, like if you're sitting there with Mo Salah in, he stays. And just alternatives. Ralph Free says, hello James. Is it sound to buy Porro for a Stupina and already have Udogi? Yes, but as per, I'm not going to cover it again. Excuse me, as per the comment I made to Atul's question earlier, that like the two of them together looks great in the next 2. I don't think you want both beyond that. So then it becomes 2 defensive transfers in a couple of weeks. And for people like me, I'm primarily making defensive transfers at the moment because of personnel and injuries, right? It's not got a lot of choice, but just consider that. Horia says, hey James, Darwin and Diaz or Salah on a wild card. So essentially 3-4-3 versus 3-5-2. But a 5th mid is a bit strange to get due to low team value. Cheers for the content. Go Mo, mate. Again, it's going to be repetitive about the concerns about game week 9. I'm sorry, it's a boring narrative that you're going to hear over the next couple of weeks. But yes, there for me has to be serious concern if either of Diaz or Nunes or Alexis McAllister as well, any of them start in game week 9. There has to be concern about that. And they could all play, right? Of course they could. But it has to be concerned about it. Cherie MC says, on wildcard 8, Salah or go TAA and Diaz. Then could get Bowen instead of Neto. Thoughts? Thanks for your thoughts. I still think, really, for most people, wildcarding now, get Mo in, I think. James Stock says, hi James, hope your family are well. Why do grounds in Europe normally have first few rows netted over? Well, it's not just first few rows. It's normally a netting you have over all of it. It's to stop people throwing coins and shit, and not that netting's going to stop a coin necessarily. It might do. It's to stop bottles and stuff like that being thrown, right? Yeah, it's a big bugbear of me because 99% of people behave, and we don't put that shit up for people when they come to our country. The petition glassing and stuff's awful as well. So. Yeah, unfortunately, for the 99% that behave, and we know there are dickheads, unfortunately, who travel to Europe with almost every club, by the way. The 99% suffered not the best experience, not the experience that it should be going away in Europe. That's why Germany's normally pretty great, right? That's the closest you'll get to getting treated properly is in Germany. Joseph Robinson says, morning James, I bet your love for De Zerbi has cooled quite a bit after Postecoglou's instant impact at your club. Yes, of course. But I also still think that Roberto De Zerbi is still destined for greatness as well. Sashin says, for example, yes, it's one of my favourite sayings. I'm aware. Grant Jameson says, hi James, Sky question. Currently don't own Spurs, but could do Awoniyi to Maddison or Romero, but would be missing out on a 2-for-1. What's your thoughts? Let it go. Just logically, right? You've got a Tottenham player who, if you get in, fine, you probably captain. But then you've lost Awoniyi at Crystal Palace, and more importantly, you've lost Awoniyi against Luton. Then you can make the move. That's the sensible Sky play, mate. Callum says, I'm wildcarding in game week 9, so this week I'm forced to do -4 due to defender injuries, and possibly -8 if Saka is ruled out, no bench. Is it okay to do -4 or just -8 before the wildcard in game week 9? To be honest with you, Callum, from what you're saying there, I think you should consider wildcarding, mate. Why not just do it now? Is it like a principle, like, oh, I've missed out on too much value or stuff like that, and we're potentially going to miss out on some more, and it's still possibly going to be similar players that you want to get? I think, to be honest, Callum, if you know you're going next week, I'm trying to think what's the reasons for not, because you don't want like Saka against City or stuff like that. Like, it's fine if that's the sort of thing you want. Like, to be honest, the sensible advice there, I think, is to say just wildcard, mate. Heather says, hey James, would you bring in Anderson from Palace for a Stupinan? I have Saliba, Pau Torres, Cher and Udogi, thanks. No, I'd bring in Mark Gay. It's already said. I'd make the saving now. And I realise Anderson will keep getting bought because he's the highest scoring defender and stuff. I just don't think there's enough between them to warrant it, to tell you the truth. I'd just go for Gay. And have that 0.3 might feel like nothing now, but at some point in the future might feel useful to you. So I'd just go Gay. Virendra Chowdhury says, hi James, I know it's quite early, but you're hopeful Spurs finish inside the top 4. Yeah, of course I am, but as I've said to many people recently, including not just on content, but to friends as well, it's like, just let me enjoy watching the football team play at the moment, right? So we've already hit my ambitions for the season, which is to drastically improve the football that I'm watching. So I already feel like I've won, right? The squad's really, really thin. I repeat what I've said several times over. There are 6 players that Tottenham cannot afford to get injured. Those are Vicario, Romero, Van der Ven, Udogi, Bissouma, and Maddison. As soon as any of them get injured, we are in massive trouble. I'm telling you. And well, not even Son. No. Because the functionality we might score less, but the functionality of the team will still work in the same way, whether a Son was available or not. So, if we lose any of them centre-backs, massive trouble. Udogi to Ben Davies, massive downgrade. What about Porro? Well, purely because, again, the format of the team can be the same with Emerson Royal in it. In terms of offensive quality, is it the same? No, but you get a little bit more defensively as well. Emerson is a very fine stand-in, for example. Who stands in for Bissouma? Højbjerg plays there. Who stands in for Maddison? Lo Celso, fine when he's fit, but he's not at the moment, which is concerning because he was meant to be out for 1 week and now we're coming up to 6 weeks. And he's a different type of profile player. Maddison's got more variety. Lo Celso's a good little punchy link player, good player. So like we've got to keep them 6 players fit, or to be honest, we don't. We won't be near it. It's my honest opinion. To say it would fall apart would be really harsh, but I just think it would be too difficult. But now, if they stay fit all season, then I probably will finish top 4, to tell you the truth. So it's really dependent on that. I say we probably will, just on base what my eyes are seeing at the moment is that this is a very, very good football team at the moment. It's also not got the challenges of playing twice a week, so it can stay consistent with what it's trying to do, etc. But I just want to enjoy it at the moment rather than worry about it. Like if Tottenham finish 6th and we get back into the Europa next year and the journey is progressing and we still got good positive vibes towards the end of the season, like it's cool. It's fine. This is already a million miles better than what I've watched the last few years. So I'm happy. And I don't really want to set too many targets. And I realise, again, I said this, if Tottenham did really well against Arsenal and Liverpool, and 4 points is good for any team, right? Then people would start talking about us as in, oh, could we? And no one really is because of the circumstance of obviously what happened last Saturday, which if you didn't watch Monday's podcast, please watch Monday's podcast. I covered it all there. But there's 3 games coming up. You look at them. Luton away, Fulham at home, Palace away. And you do think, if I said to you now, Luton away, Fulham at home, Palace away, you're a neutral, how many points do you think Tottenham get? Is 7 realistic? I would say 7 is realistic. 9 is possible, right? And then if it is 9, then Tottenham at the end of that period, after the first 10 weeks, will probably be top of the league. And then people really will be talking. And that would be nice. But I think don't get carried away. Don't get carried away. I remember when we went to Liverpool in the COVID season and everyone was like, it's potential title decider. This was in December because Man City were blowing up bad. Man City still won the league by miles, by the way. And Liverpool fell off a cliff. People were talking about Liverpool and Tottenham as a potential title decider in December. Roberto Firmino scored an injury time goal. One of several injury time goals that's happened against Tottenham over the years from Liverpool. And Liverpool ended up just about finishing 4th. Mourinho got sacked 5 months later. We finished 7th, I think. 7th. And so that was December, right? Come on. Too long to go. Too long to go. It's a really, 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 really good start. Really, really happy. That's it. And that also feels like a really, really good time to end this stream. Sorry to those I didn't get to. If you want to take like a screen grab of your team and tag me on Twitter, I'll get it answered for you. I'll be really happy to do so. Please don't put it in my DMs because chances are I won't even see it. That's it. Right. Smash a like. Hit the sub button if you want to support the show. www.patreon.com/planetfpl. For advanced and intermediate tier patrons, we've got the differential show coming up for you about 3 o'clock today. Support the show because you want to support the show, or you want additional content, not because anyone's going to make you a better FPL manager. Have you seen these patrons? They're not capable. Jokes, guys. Love you all. So you'll be back with me on Monday for the Game Week Review podcast, and the deadline stream will be live on our YouTube channel tomorrow at 10 a.m. But as always, guys, play it your way, be nice to each other, and for the benefit of those on the audio, cue music, please, man child.